Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting for the Village of Ruidoso City Council. If you'll stand with me, we'll have a moment of silence and then we'll do the pledge. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, you may be seated. Can I get a roll call, please, ma'am?
Mayor Crawford,
Here.
Councilor Eby,
Here.
Councilor Letterman,
Here.
Councilor Salas,
Here.
Councilor Hooker,
Here.
Councilor Jackson,
Here.
Councilor Corey.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, it's good to see one of my, if not my favorite bartender in the audience today. I don't know if he brought us a bag of goodies or not. Well, maybe later. Could I get a motion for the approval of today's agenda, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent and regular agenda with the exclusion of item number 18 under the consent agenda, and further to allow the chair to move items for discussion at will.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Councilor Jackson,
Aye.
Councilor Hooker,
Aye.
Councilor Eby,
Aye.
Councilor Letterman,
Aye.
Councilor Salas,
Aye.
Councilor Corey.
Aye.
All right, thank you, and appreciate the ability to move it around. So I'd like to go ahead and move to our guests today that are here, because I know they've got a lot of things to do and they need to get back, but we're very proud. And if Brooke Chavez, Coach Chavez, and is Sydney here? Would y'all come on up? And you guys are going to come up. I want this is the 2024 RHS, the Ruidoso High School State Cheerleading Champions. And so they did us very proud, and we're so fortunate to have so many young people today that do such an awesome job. And I got to see the video, and it was very, very impressive. And so, yes. So if I call out your name, raise your hand. Kane? How did I say that? Canoe. I'm sorry. Is that you? Okay, raise your hand. You got it twice. Jamie LeBlanc? Jamie LeBlanc. Ramey Kenny?
She's not here.
Peyton Chavez. How many cheerleaders do you have?
Right here, right now?
No, I mean total.
Total, there was a total of 28.
Wow. Okay, that's
great.
awesome. Kaya Johns? Awesome.
Hey.
Alexia Bravo. Excellent. Elizabeth Kennedy. There you go. Thank you. Aaron, did I say that right? Mapo? It's not there. Henley Chavez.
No.
Grayson Courtney. I can't believe you are shy. I don't hear a peep or a rah, rah, rah.
That's right.
Kick them in the knee or anything. Brooklyn Rogers. Victoria Kennedy.
Hey.
Victoria Kennedy, she here? Awesome. Thank you, Victoria. Amber Morgan. Stephanie Villarreal.
Hey, step up.
Emily Tidwell. Mia Simpson, or Maya. Mia, I got one right. Hayden Byton. Did I get that right? Okay. No, how do you say it? Byington. Okay, I don't mind being corrected, believe me. And then the only dude in the deal.
Whoa.
Ty Oberhue. Attaboy Ty. Andrea Zentino. And Samantha Komet. Where's Sammy? There she is.
Hey.
Isha Davis. Kaylee Ballard. Serenity Lucero. And I'm just going to say Miss Figueroa Cidalia.
I was like, how do you
Say that? Okay, you're going to have to dumb it down even more, dear. Citalia? Sitlali, awesome. Well, we're very, very proud of you gals, and hopefully we can get a picture of you, and we'll put it in the Ruidoso Insider. And Coach, is there anything you want to say about this fantastic team? We have a microphone right there. Just the people in the audience and the millions around the world are watching. Speaking to the mic. Awesome.
And they worked really hard.
Good. And I know the football team is going to need a lot of support this year. They're rebuilding, so we want to support that. And we're really, I mean, what you guys did on the video that I saw was very impressive. Real athletes, all of you. So we appreciate what you do and how you represented the village of Ruidoso. If you'll turn around and look at Cheryl right over there. She's going to get a picture.
Squeeze in there.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, all of you.
All right. You guys can go. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you, Coach, for bringing them in.
Bye,
Glad
Sammy.
you came back.
Good job, good job.
That's a real treat. We always love when we have our youth excel at things. It's really nice. And a great job to the coach. That's a lot of people to keep moving in the right direction. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hit on the consent regular items. We've got quite a few, so if you'll bear with me, we'll read them off really quick and get through them. Consent regular items, approval of governing body minutes, April 9, 2024 regular meeting, April 22nd, 2024 workshop meeting, April 23, 2024 special meeting, April 23rd workshop meeting, April 24th, 2024 workshop meeting. I don't thank the council and the staff because those are 8-hour days every day that you guys put in, so I appreciate it. That's why Susan's on vacation, I guess. We're out. Item number 2, approval of sub-grant agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and the fiscal agent for the Lincoln County Ruidoso DWI program and the Department of Public Safety, State of New Mexico, acting through the Grant Accountability and Compliance Section, GACS, for DWI enforcement, and the reimbursement of Compliance Section, GACS, for, I already read that once, reimbursement of compliance of costs in an amount not to exceed $6,000 for the period of time between July 1, 2024 and May 31st, 2025. Item number 3, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso and the City of Ruidoso Downs as the administrative authority for the Ruidoso Downs Police Department for DWI enforcement activities and reimbursement of costs in the amount not to exceed $6,000 for the period of time between July 1, 2024, May 31st, 2025. Item number 4, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso as the fiscal agent for the Lincoln County Ruidoso DWI program and the town of Carrizozo and administrative authority for the Carrizozo Police Department for DWI enforcement and overtime reimbursement of costs in the amount not to exceed $2,000 for the time period between July 1, 2024 and May 31st, 2025. Item number 5, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso as the fiscal agent for the Lincoln County Ruidoso DWI program and the County of Lincoln as the administrative authority for Lincoln County Sheriff's Office for DWI enforcement activities and reimbursement of costs in the amount not to exceed $2,000 for the period of time between July 1, 2024 and May 31st, 2025. Item number 6, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso as the fiscal agent for Lincoln County Ruidoso DWI program and the Village of Capitan as the administrative authority for the Capitan Police Department for DWI enforcement activities and reimbursement of costs in the amount not to exceed $2,000 for the period of time between July 1, 2024 and May 31st, 2025. Item number 7, approval of memorandum of understanding between the Village of Ruidoso as the fiscal agent for the Lincoln County Ruidoso DWI program and the Village of Ruidoso as the administrative authority for the Ruidoso Police Department for DWI enforcement and reimbursement of costs in an amount not to exceed $2,000 for the period of time between July 1st, 2024 and May 31st, 2025. Item number 8, approval of contract with Capitan Therapy and Behavioral Health, LLC, to provide individual and group domestic violence offender treatment in the amount not to exceed $6,000, including New Mexico GRT, for a period of time between July 1st, 2024 and June 15th, 2025. Item number 9, approval of contract with Hope Floats Addiction Counseling, LLC, to provide individual and group alcohol domestic violence offender treatment in the amount not to exceed $6,000, including New Mexico GRT, for the period of time between July 1, 2024 and June 1st, 2025. Item number 10, approval of fourth renewal agreement by and between the Village of Ruidoso and New Mexico Municipal Corporation of Lincoln County, New Mexico, and William and/or Elizabeth Hanson, DBA Hanson Consulting, for professional services for DWI Grant Program Coordinator in the amount not to exceed $90,000 for fiscal year 2025. Item number 11, approval of award of RFP number 2024-006P for professional services for a DWI prevention assistant in the amount not to exceed $66,000 for fiscal year 2025 to Melinda Mater. Item number 12, approval of agreement RFP number 2024-006P by and between the Village of Ruidoso, a New Mexico Municipal Corporation of Lincoln County, New Mexico, and Melinda Mater for professional services for a DWI prevention assistant in the amount not to exceed $66,000 for fiscal year 2025. Item number 13, approval of joint powers agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and Ruidoso Downs Racetrack for providing security for special events for the 2024 race season. Item number 14, approval of joint powers agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and the Ruidoso Jockey Club regarding providing security for special events for 2024 race season. Item number 15, approval of joint funding agreement, JFA, number 24 RGJFA 35, with United States Department of Interior Geological Survey, USGS, for stream gradient study on Eagle Creek below South Fork in the amount of $58,231, no cents. Item number 16, approval of change order number 2 with J&H Services for ITB number 2023-016B, amending the contract to update bid items, quantities for project completion and revise changes to the U.S. Highway 70 frontage road portion of the project, resulting in a decrease of the total contract price of $64.91 for a total contract price of $2,433,579 and $2,433,579.37, including New Mexico GRT. Those guys do a great job. Item number 17, approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-15, adopting a revised travel policies and procedures manual, providing for the repeal of prior resolutions and written travel policies and procedures, and an effective date. Item number 18.
We pulled that one.
Oh, we pulled number 18. Okay. So the new number 18, is this still number 19? Okay, 19, approval of request to schedule a public hearing on June the 11th, 2024 for proposed ordinance 2024-03, an ordinance for safe and anonymous surrender of infants, allowing persons to leave infants not more than 90 days of age in safety devices for surrender, under certain conditions without criminal prosecution for abandonment or abuse of a child, allowing the installation and operation of safety devices for the surrender of infants. Any discussion?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent regular items as read.
Second.
And we have a motion second. Any discussion? Nada. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman. Aye. Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Corey.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I have the sign in for public comment, please? Public input, I mean. Awesome. Okay, we'll go into public inputs, limited. You get, and the Mayor Pro Tem will give you a stopwatch. And today it's Andrea Fernandez. I said it the first time.
Thank you for trying, because to say my name correctly is to know me, so thank you for your care.
Thank you, Andrea.
There's 600 and something ways to say it, so I understand.
Looks like you got a bag of goodies.
I do. Thank you for having me. Andrea Fernandez Ruidoso, resident. I'm a visionary leader, and I do a lot of different types of work that are small projects, but that make a big impact. And so I will be sharing about some of what I've been working on and ask for village support.
And so, thank you.
Yeah.
Magic.
Okay. I just want to let you all know that when I sit during the pledge, it's because I pray. I don't take sides. I pray for peace. And I'm sorry if that's offensive. So my report will talk about food security that I've been working on, transportation, and some stewardship efforts that we've talked about before, and just kind of how things are going. And then, if I have time, there's an election topic. So I know y'all are planning for the comprehensive plan, so hopefully this will help give you guidance. Food security efforts. I work with the Village of Ruidoso at the Farmers Market. I work with Jasper Riddle over at his market. I organize picks. Our last pick was La Luz. We got tons of pecans. So anyway, we're going to have lots of apricots this year. So I just hope that we're prepared for the abundance, and want to ask for your support in how can we use community kitchens, volunteers, because if you don't know, Village of Ruidoso property has a lot to offer as far as food security. Regarding transportation, we keep missing the boat, and congratulations on fixing the road. It's beautiful. Y'all did it great. You did it fast. Public transportation is not very effective, and I'm glad that you support it and fund it, but we need to organize and talk about how to make it more effective. I've ridden it, I've talked to passengers, I've talked to drivers. I know what doesn't work and what does. So the Ruidoso Downs mayor, they got a new council, they're interested in relooking at it. The Health Council will pay for a lunch to talk about it. We have a list of key players, so wondering how the village can partner with that. Regarding stewardship efforts, there was a proclamation made to reduce single-use plastic because it's important, it's costly, damaging in many ways. And so I want to give a gift to any council person that brought their reusable item. Because we reward good behavior, because rewarding otherwise is damaging. So, congratulations. Thank you for your leadership. Parks and Rec just had a trash cleanup. That's definitely in line with the way we want to do things, so they've been doing it a long time. Congratulations. This year they provided water reuse stations so that someone like me could fill up instead of grabbing a disposable one. And it's a practice. We just practice doing better. We can't do it all at once. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I want to advocate for the water refill stations in all public buildings, including the courthouses. Sorry, I hope we're not too late for that, but the community center, the library, ENMU has them, the hospital has them, the state legislature has them, so they're great. People, this is a culture. I went to a health council meeting. For years, everybody was doing single-use plastic. 8 out of 10 brought theirs. So it's happening, and I'm grateful. So that's the solution to the recycling problem: reuse. And regarding the election, I wish there was a place, a forum like the courthouse where we could go, get educated, and have the two candidates, the contested races, like the sheriff and the legislators, and have a discussion. Because I do have a voice that I would like to share, and I hope you listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the only name that we have on there, so if we can, we'll go ahead and move. So we have a lot of employees here, so if you'll bear with me, we'll move on to mayoral reports and presentations, and we will go to presentation of new employees and promotions. Because we did, it's very nice that we're finally staffing up.
Yes.
Okay, and here we are. Might as well just get Deborah up here so she can pronounce her own last name.
I'm Deborah Owayo.
Owayo,
Yes, sir. Q silent, but it's hard
okay.
to know that.
And she is with the PD Department Animal Control Code Enforcement Officer. And we're very glad to have you. You have a very impressive resume that we all got to read. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been in animal control for about 20 years. I was working for another police department, so I have a law enforcement background to carry over here too. I'm a wildlife rehabilitator, basic certified. I'm just very grateful to be here. My dad was 5th generation New Mexico born, and so I'm now staying at my mom's house and close to her, and I'm really grateful to be here.
Well, we're grateful you're here. Where did you come from?
Santa Barbara, California.
Yeah. Well, we're very tickled to have you, and hopefully you enjoy your time here. Hopefully it's a long time. Okay, excellent. And she conquered the first thing, she had a place to live. So we're soon we're going to have some really good news on all of those things. So, but Deborah, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Joshua Picard, Water Distribution Maintenance Tech.
My name is Josh. I'm from Amarillo, Texas.
Ah, the old top of Texas. Yeah, I'm from Pampa, so I've been, yeah. Yeah, so what, Amarillo Sandy or a?
Amarillo Sandy.
Oh, boo-hoo. Those guys whipped us every time we played them. So we're glad to have you. And are you new to Ruidoso?
Yes, I'm new. I just moved here in March.
In March. Well, we are very glad to have you. What drew you to Ruidoso?
My fiance.
Oh, well, that would probably do the trick. So we're glad. Well, Josh, we're really glad to have you here. And if we can ever be in service, this is your council. You know, just let us know. So you're in every department we have is super important, and none more than that one. So anyway, we appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Nico Garcia, Fire Department. There's Nico. Hello, Nico. And you're a firefighter. Is this your first round at firefighting?
Yes, it is.
Where did you move from?
I'm here.
Oh, you're a hometown guy?
From Mescalero, but grew up in Ruidoso team.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you, and hopefully you enjoy your tenure here. And the fire department, we're hopefully to have a lot of new things going on in that department too. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. All right. Nicholas Tanner, the airport. Attaboy, how are you?
Doing great.
Were you out there for the pancake breakfast Saturday? You were? I'm sorry, I didn't see you. So we're very glad to have you. We got a lot of things we're working on with the master plan out there, and so you got here at the right time. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm born and raised in Gallup, New Mexico. Second part of my childhood was in Farmington. My wife's family is down here in Ruidoso, and all of my family moved out of the Four Corners area, so we wanted to get closer back to my wife's family. So my sister-in-law just had her first baby, so we're glad to be a part of there. I have a degree in aviation technology, so when this posting came to be, and it was a match made in heaven, I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. So thank you. Yes, it sounds like we need to be thanking these women. Maybe we ought to start a class over at ENMU on how to get your guy to move here.
Are you in relation to Chase and his family? No.
Chase Tanner,
Yeah.
I have his jacket.
Huh. Well, that's crazy. Yeah. It works, huh? All right.
Brianne Lucero. There's Brianne. Customer Service Representative and Finance. Well, we're very glad to have you. That's important so much of the time people come in, you're the face for the village. And so we appreciate you, what you do. And you're going to be dabbling in finance? Awesome, because I know that Judy could use your help over there. So where are you from?
I'm from Fort Sumner, New Mexico.
Fort Sumner. We know somebody else from Fort Sumner.
Nixon's, watch out.
You know, Ron came from Fort, or as Louis says, Sumners? Fort Summers, when he doesn't have his teeth in. Yeah. So we're glad to have you here. So thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
And solid waste to heavy equipment operator, Robert Martinez. Attaboy, Robert. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Are you from here, or where'd you come from?
I was born and raised in Carson City, Nevada.
Oh, wow.
At 18, went to college at UNM in Albuquerque, got a degree in criminal justice, and didn't really use it for anything. So I moved on, became a firefighter in Denver. Retired after 14 years firefighting in Denver. Started a trucking company and retired basically from that and wanted to stay busy, and we bought a house here in Ruidoso, so I love it here, the trails, the fishing, camping, hunting, everything about it. So this is where we want to be.
Well, we're glad to have you. Thank you. I know Jerry is very happy over there, so we appreciate what you do. So thank you. Yeah, we got really good folks over there. We do. So thank you very much. And then we have a promotion, James Sanchez. Attaboy, yeah, promoted to heavy equipment operator May 5th. So we're certainly glad that you did that. And people don't realize all the intricacies it takes to get this thing done, the licenses that you have to have, the training that you have. So we appreciate you continuing on and doing the great job that you do. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have we started a program here where we were, we're short CDL drivers. And so we worked with ENMU on a program so that you could get the training right out here over in White Mountain Meadows in the parking lot. Worked out real well. We've had quite a few of our employees sign up for that. And we have some that have completed the course at ENMU, Ruidoso. Alexander Kazi Kurgan. Oh, did I get close? Oh, man. He's in the street department. So was that challenging?
It was, honestly, but I got a big truck, nobody's really keen to it. But
Yeah. How many cones did you back over and how many times? I saw.
let's not talk about
Okay, well, we won't. I appreciate you stepping up, going through the program and adding to your resume. And that's a great thing that you've done. So we appreciate what you're doing. You bet.
Good job.
And we have James Sanchez in the water department. Has now got his CDL. Yeah, that's it. Look, you're all.
James.
Yeah, gonna have the All-Star tour. You keep this up. That's great, man. Thank you very much. Did you find it difficult?
So, some of it, when it comes to the pre-trip and learning the truck.
Uh-huh.
I grew up with horses and stuff, so driving, pulling trailers, always done.
Yeah, but with the big rig, the grinding of the gears and the
Yes, sir.
clutching and
It was
everything.
fun.
It was fun. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you completed it. Congratulations. Solid waste, Ezekiel Alvarez. Attaboy, Zeke. Was it easy for you too? Everything comes easy to you is what I'm hearing, so. No?
It was pretty simple. It was fun.
Well, we're glad that you got that and that you're moving on up, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great example of opportunities that we're coming up with to fill spaces that we just, we want to fill it from within. And the local economy is helping us with that, and the college. And so we appreciate people taking advantage of that. Okay. Now we'll move on. Did I get them, everybody?
looks like.
I think I got everybody.
Bueller.
Okay, and now then, we want to go to Eric Queller, because we're in discussions, and we'll have a meeting tomorrow with P&M. They're talking about having rolling blackouts. Thank you, guys. We're talking about safety. We're coming into fire season. So ready, set, go.
It's cold in here.
Is it?
Yes, coming out from out there into here, it's
Susan's
cold in
not
here.
so we're
Yeah,
able
we're-
to make it just right. We miss you, Susan.
Yeah, no, we are in fire season, and so we haven't had the monsoon rains last year, and we're projected not to have the monsoon rains this year as well. And so we are seeing longer durations in fire seasons. So, it's again a village-wide effort for our public safety officials as well as the community to prepare themselves for wildfires, both at the small scale and at the larger scale, those catastrophic wildfires. So it's all about being prepared. All right. Well, Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. We'll be going over the Ready, Set, Go program as well as emergency management updates for the village. As the mayor alluded to, we do have a ongoing discussion, I don't know if it's a discussion rather, with P&M about their public safety shutoff. So we'll loop back with that as well. So the Ready, Set, Go program was developed by the National Forest Service and then backed by the International Chiefs Association, Fire Chiefs Association. New Mexico adopted the Ready, Set, Go program, and that's filtered down to the local level as well. And so, next slide. The first defense that a homeowner can take is, of course, the defensible space as well as hardening your home. And so we'll go into the next slide for actually what does hardening your home look like? Well, what types of fires can affect your home during a forest fire? It goes down to three categories. You have your direct flames, your radiant heat, and then your flying embers from a forest fire. And so hardening your home mitigates all of those direct contact, the radiant heat and whatnot. Next slide. So these are just some few tips of what homeowners can take at their level. They're ranging from cheaper options, moving stuff off of your deck, to looking at putting fire guards on your vents. Next slide. The other thing that we can do is defensible space. I think if you hit the space bar, you can see that video, maybe. This was actually done a few weeks ago that demonstrates defensible space and how critical it is for a homeowner to have on their property. I know if we go around the village, I know in the McBride fire, if you look at the county level and their operations and their thinning process, and then you looked at our thinning process, you can definitely tell a drastic change of how the fire spread and the blockades and all of that good stuff. So as you can see, the home to the right had really good defensible space. To the left did not have defensible space. So I think we get the gist if you want to go through it. I'm not going to wait the whole time for that. So we have three zones when it comes to defensible space. We have Zone 0, Zone 1, and Zone 2. The Zone 1 is your stuff that is right on the outside of your wall in the property. And so those are shrubs that kind of move towards the siding of the house, the grass that butts up against the house, stuff like that. So you want to reduce those fuel loads. Same for 2, cleaning, trimming overhead branches above the chimney, stuff like that. And then 2 is actually the most significant zone where you're spacing out the trees, you're spacing out the shrubbery and all of that good stuff. So we talked about ready, now let's get set. And so we'll talk about wildfire action planning, go bag, financially prepared, and the village emergency assistance registry. So we'll get into the next slide. So with this is making sure that each family entity has their own communication plan. How do they communicate if there's an emergency? Most of the time, when an emergency happens, I don't know for you, but it's never convenient for me, is people are away. People are at school, people are at work, and we have communication outages that follow wildfires. And so having a communication plan of, hey, if we have cell phones go down and there is an emergency, let's meet at CVS or Walgreens. If we need to go in the neighborhood, where do we go to the mailbox? Do we go to the park down the road? But also reassuring that we have an out-of-town contact. If we do have a worst-case scenario, where can we meet up outside of town if something really bad happens? And so also identifying your animal arrangements, shelter operations. We do take service animals, however, we don't take horses. Those go to a different shelter. And so arranging for those livestock to have somewhere to go helps us in the response and recovery process. Let's go to the next slide. I know Counselor Hooker likes talking about go, but do you have your go bag here today?
Well, I got one.
You got one, okay.
Everywhere.
And so just like planning, we also want to talk about having each entity, your family entity, have a go kit. One is for the quick on the shoulder, you take it out, backpack style, and then some is the buckets for water, for food, other items that you might not necessarily need in that moment, but you're going to need a couple hours from now. And so we always encourage a 3-day supply of food and water, maps of the local area, and then extra changes of clothes, and then actually an AM radio or a weather radio. Next slide. So we can't have recovery without being financially prepared, and that includes having extra savings accounts, having a rainy day fund, and then of course, proper insurance. Insurance is critical in this day and age to financially recover from a disaster or major emergency. Next slide. So the VEER application, this does come into play when we talk about the updates to the Emergency Management Office as well as village-wide preparedness efforts. The Village Emergency Assistance Registry was developed by my office to understand the needs of our community or the vulnerable populations. So when we start looking at the FEMA language, we look at having the whole community approach. And so to plan for disasters, we have to understand what is our community needs. And so using ArcGIS and working with our partners across the village, the healthcare industry, the long-term living facilities, and the, I'm blanking on their name, hospice centers. And so working with them to identify what are their needs during a disaster. If we know that 33 people are on oxygen, we have to plan to provide oxygen for 33 people. And so getting that out, it's all self-reporting. And so we're encouraging citizens to, if they have a need or they have a disability or they have an access and functional need issue, to sign up so we understand what their needs are. If we call an evacuation order in this area, can they get themselves out of that area, or do we need to provide transportation for them? So going on to the GO portion of the Ready, Set, Go program. Next slide. We have the 3 levels that is tailored to the Ready, Set, Go program, and that filters down to alerts as well. And so you have your Be Ready message, your Be Set message, and then your Go Now message. And so when we look at the emergency alerts for wildfires, anytime that there is a wildfire in the village or is within 5 miles and threatening the village during a critical fire weather day, we will send out an emergency message to address the whole community saying, hey, we have a fire, this is what's happening, we're aware of it. Because again, when you have public safety, you have to have public trust, and being upfront, understanding what the situation is and portraying that to the community helps us in the public safety sector do what we need to do. We go into level 2, or the B set, if we start thinking that that wildfire is moving at a rapid pace, understanding that it might be threatening structures or going to impact structures, then we're going to send a set message. The set message is for folks just to understand, hey, that there's a threat, you might be in danger. If you have a pre-existing condition, if you have a access and functional need issue, if you have livestock, go ahead and start getting your stuff together, start putting your plan into action. That last message is your go message. That's, you need to leave. Your life is in immediate danger. Your property's in immediate danger. You can't sit there and wait, because you will have an emergency yourself if you wait. And so those are our ready, set, go messages for the emergency alerts. So where do we go when we call a go message? We can go to the next slide, Yvonne. So we have the know your zone. And so knowing your zone, the village is split up into 3 different zones. And so they're evacuation zones. Just like how they do on the coast, we have stuff for the wildfire as well. As the coast, they do more of the storm surge. Here we do it on the fire load and the fuel load and the risk of wildfire in that area. And so these maps will be produced when the new website comes out, and it can be tailored to each community. So you can type in your address and you'll know what zone you're on. And so when we call that emergency message, you'll say we're evacuating zone A, or these streets to this street. And so again, it gives that citizen the more power to understand their dynamic situation when they're evacuating.
Eric, if I can, I know you're doing a great job, but on that, if there's any way, I'm sorry, Mayor, if I may, to have that put out, because now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we got to get that message out. Somebody that's a full-time resident, they understand, but with all the short-term rentals, Airbnbs,
Definitely.
is that something that could go through Stephanie and her office and have it in there? So they're tourists up here, they're here for the weekend, and oh no, something's going on. Oh, we're in zone B, so we're good.
Yes, so we're actually making a flip guide for each short-term rental that has basic understandings of, if we do have an evacuation, these are the maps, what to do during a flooding event, what to do if we have an active shooter situation. It's an all-hazard guide. And so those maps will be included in there, Counselor.
Thank you, thank you.
Mayor.
Eric,
Sir.
on the alerts, are those customized to where you live?
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a village-wide alert?
Yes, so for the ready message, it will be a village-wide alert because everyone sees the plume of smoke. When you turn that corner, it's kind of like catches you off guard sometimes. So we will send out a village-wide alert when we have a ready message, but the set and go messages will be tailored to those locations specifically, Counselor. Next slide. So what to do in the immediate, hold on. Oh, there we go. So we'll go into the go. So we have the 6 P's to evacuations, and that's people and pets, papers, phone, important documents, prescription eyeglasses, pictures, and in replaces memorabilia, personal computer, and then your plastic. So your cash, your ATM card, stuff like that. So if you're in a bind, you have that go message, you are hauling it out the door, the 6 P's are what you need to remember so you can quickly and effectively move away from danger. On. So the topic that we all wanted to hear about, the staying safe during a power outage. These are just some steps that the citizens can take during a power outage, both at the immediate power outage, just line snaps and we have a power outage, or a public safety shutoff. So as we go into the next updates, we'll get into what my office is doing to prepare for emergencies, disasters, and whatnot. So next slide. Mitigation. The slide did not update when I sent it to you. So we do have multiple contracts for rentals. And that is just having line of mobile generators that we can have if we have a public safety shutoff that are here pre-positioned and ready to go. We do have the 2 public safety radio towers are generated now, as well as backup battery. And so we just have to pre-position people up there to get them transferred from the DC and moving them AC/DC power to actually the generator power. When we look at transfer switches, we're putting transfer switches on the community center, the library, the convention center, and the radio station for the immediate future. And so that is looking at our community resiliency shelters. And so the community center, the library, and the convention center are going to be those shelter locations. We need to have power to those locations. Currently, we do not have backup generator power, but with those rentals that are coming in and being pre-positioned, and the installation of those transfer switches now, it will be a lot smoother process instead of hardwiring in when we're in the thick of it. When we look at long-term mitigation projects, we are looking at hard generators. Those will be put on the public safety radio towers, and those are going to be grant funded. So those are going to be natural gas generators, and so when something happens to the electrical grid, those generators will kick on. The convention center will also be a diesel generator that is going to be grant funded. And so if there is something, the generator will kick on and power that facility. The radio station will have a generator, as well as the Horton complex will have a generator, and that's both funded through the village funds. Next slide. I just copied the slide. That makes sense. Cool. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the outdoor warning system. That is a critical component of the all hazards alert system for the village of Ruidoso. We are acquiring poles, and we are looking at putting solar packages on them so they will be self-contained. They will also have that battery component as well, but it's all about redundancies. And so when we have the redundancies, it's just making sure that if something happens, one item fails, the next one comes in, takes its place, and continues providing whatever services we're asking it to. In this case, sounding a siren. And so we do have the 3. We do plan on putting them up once we acquire the poles, and then we will be purchasing 3 additional sirens. In terms of preparedness updates, we have the Village Emergency Operations Plan. The green boxes are what we have completed and updated. The blue are what we're still working on. And so we have the basic plan, Annex A, which is warning, Annex L, utilities, Annex O, human services, Annex P is your hazard mitigation, your Annex U, legal, and then your 3 SOPs. So the Emergency Operations Center Standard Operating Procedure, the SOP for sending out emergency alerts, and then your ICS NIMS, which opens the door for grant funding. We have all of those SOPs open. We are currently working on all of them, but an emphasis on Annex C Annex C sheltering and mass care, and Annex B communications. Next slide. So the Village of Ruidoso this week is implementing a Type 4 incident management support team in response to the possible public safety shutoffs. This is so we can coordinate resources on our village local level, creating a single point ordering system, and then identifying the funds to understand what we need to do if this does roll out. So identifying those transfer switches and placing them, where the fundings are coming from, and all of that stuff. Public Works, Sanitation, Parks and Rec, as well as Emergency Management will be getting portable radios and their own frequencies dedicated to them. OEM is also in the process of purchasing 15 shelter kits for mass care use. So when we look at sheltering and mass care, we look at these resiliency centers. And so these are areas that are safe, accessible, and equipped facilities for both residents and visitors to retain information and resources during time of need. So if we have these public safety shutoffs, we will be providing these essential resources that have already been pre-identified of these locations. And so there'll be information boards as well as daily operation briefings to the public to understand what's happening with both the electrical infrastructure and then what the village is doing. We have to go old school because during a public safety shutoff, we do have communications means that are not functional during that time. So again, these locations will have basic needs, supplies, and access for devices charging like ECMO machines, oxygen, stuff like that. Again, next slide. We're already there? Oh, we're already there. Thank you, Yvonne. Public information, using the iPause alert system, P&M said that they'll give us 2-day notice, but they want the customer to opt in to get noticed. We want to make sure that everyone understands the entirety of the situation. So we will be using the iPause system, which is that Amber Alert tile system.
That everybody gets it.
Everyone gets it, unless they went into their phone and they actually opted out for that service. But a lot of people don't know how to do that, so you will get a message if you have not messed with anything.
Eric?
Yes, sir.
How much advance notice?
For the public safety shutoffs? Yes, so we were told that we would get 2 days' notice at the minimum. And so if you actually look at the plan that they provided, there is a clause in there during urgent situations, we could get little to no notice. So that's the goal, is to get 2 days. And then on the last day or within the imminent hours of them shutting off the power, we will send that emergency alert saying, these are resiliency centers. They're located at this place, and this place. You can get more information there.
For the benefit of the public, could you quickly explain what would prompt the rolling blackout?
So if we look at the model and the plan, they specifically have their own criteria for shutting off the power. However, the basic understanding is during a critical fire weather day, in terms of a red flag warning day or a high wind warning day, in the name of preventing a catastrophic wildfire caused by a utility outage, they would shut off the power. They specifically don't say what their parameters are. They specifically say that a red flag warning does not pre-act or start the process to a public safety shutoff, but it might not be a coincidence if it is a red flag warning day.
Thank you.
So we've reached out to the governor's office, finally got a call back from Slagle, the chief of staff. They're gonna start looking into it because we haven't had any work from P&M. We haven't had any narrative on exactly how this is gonna work. We haven't had any reach out to the community. We've reached out to all other communities. Nobody's heard of this. Even because the transmission lines out of Texas are P&Ms. So there's some argument if they can't even do this. And then when we've talked to locals, they're saying if these are shut off, all of it, it could be 4 to 6 days maybe before they're turned back on. So we have identified how many people on dialysis machines?
So we have 290 people that are medically dependent on some type of medical device
At
in
home.
the community. Yes.
And so to be able to get those folks to have time and the finances to make it happen, you know, we need to give them plenty of notice. Not that we're totally against the idea of safety, we understand that, but there's a lot more to this that we have not got the information. But we do have a meeting tomorrow.
And Mayor Crawford, members of the council also reached out to the congressional delegation, Senator Heinrich and Senator Lujan's field staff, and also have submitted the P&M's proposed plan, and just, they weren't aware of it either, so.
But they already filed a brief with the PRC last Friday, a week ago or something.
Weekend ago.
And so they already put it in there. And so we all know who runs the PRC. So that's why we're calling her office, to see if there's something we can do.
my voice today is not to cause public panic, not to cause any of that. We're just taking proactive steps if in the event that we do have not just a public safety shutoff, but any other disaster later down the road. That's what my office is in charge of, is preparing for, mitigating against, responding to, and recovering from major disasters and emergencies. And so I'd rather be 3 steps ahead than 1 step behind. So with that, closing out slide.
14:90 a.m. too.
1490? Oh, my dyslexia got me.
I was going to say.
So, Mayor Eric, were you involved in the evacuation drill at White Mountain Elementary?
So I was actually at a conference that day. However, I was in the pre-planning meetings for that with Coach Speck. And we actually talked about the reunification exercise and stuff like that. I know
I think that was fantastic.
Yes.
Because as you know, the last fire, there was a little bit of confusion, and so.
Yeah, definitely a good after-action review, and we're coming back to it and making improvements for that.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Don't mean to be doom and gloom, but that's my job.
That's your job.
All right, well, thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you, sir, Counselor.
Next, we're going to have Dick Cook up, talk about.
Question?
Yes.
Oh,
Joe?
Well, Dick can come up too there, but
Well, I'll let Dick have the spot.
during your presentation there, you had, when you had the 3 different areas that, or different causes of your home to burn up, and you showed the video on the 2 different shacks that were side by side. It seems to me that the one that burned up most is because of the bush next door, but also you had the wooden fence right up against the house. So is that something that, as far as the emergency management and also as far as fire prevention, that we should look at as far as having a wooden fence right up to a house? Because there's quite a few of those in Ruidoso. It's not that I want to tell people exactly what to do, but it might be something that needs to be pointed out or looked at. And then in your second, in your VEER, where you have the, of course, it's optional, you said the people to register with the village and give their, as far as needs, as far as disabilities and such. Is that information, is it, or could it be integrated in with the 911 addressing to where that address pops up, then it automatically shows up dialysis or this, that, and the other thing?
Definitely, we can look at integrating it when we do have the new 911 addressing system up and operational. And then looking at, I know Fire and PD, don't want to speak for them, but I know that they are looking at a CAD system, a computer automated dispatch. And so I would not be opposed to inputting my information that I've collected into the CAD system. So if we do have that frequent flyer, or we do have that individual that is at that location that has a medical emergency, we can already have that sense when they're pulling up on scene, understand what the first responders are walking into.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
I'll hand it over to Dick.
Dick. Yes, sir, Dick?
Mayor, Council, I brought a slideshow to show you a little bit about the Moon Mountain thinning that we did. And just to refresh your memory a little bit, this was a $155,000 project that created a fuel break from just on the south end of the Frisbee Golf Course all the way to the ridge that overlooks Meander. And so the specs on the thing were to spread out the density of the trees to about 20, 25, 30 feet between trees, prune the stuff from the bottom up so we don't have any ladder fuels, and get rid of all the stuff underneath. And it was 400 feet wide, and it was also to clean up during the McBride wind. There were a lot of blowdowns on that ridge, and that was also that little road up there was what they used as a control line whenever McBride Fire came back over there. And so the firefighters cut down a bunch of trees and created a lot of slash. It was a pretty big mess. Anyway, we got the state land office down and took a look at it, and they decided that they'd fund it, so the funding came from the State Land Office. And so I have a slideshow. There's quite a few slides. We'll go through them rather quickly, just to show you what it looked like before and to show you what it looked like after. The one other part of that thing was that we were going to improve the road, particularly for safety, access in the event of a fire, or as it develops in the event of somebody that needs to be evacuated from that area so they can get up there in a vehicle or ambulance or whatever they need to do to get out.
Is that the road up Madera, or is it going to be on Gavilan side? The road that you were talking about?
It's on the Moon Mountain side. It's right on top of the ridge is what it is.
It comes from DeBoer, which is up off of
Madera.
Yep, all that through there, and then it drops all the way over into that parking lot. where the
Except
gate
it
is.
doesn't go all the way to DeBoer. It's on top.
Through the gate, by the water tanks.
No, on the other edge.
On the east side. It's from the dump going up.
Oh, okay.
It's a ridge right above Gavilan Canyon.
Okay,
If you'd like, I'll take you up and show you.
I would like.
Okay, this is the masticator. If you remember, we had some of this masticated, and this was his first day on the job, and that's what the masticator looked like, just in case you didn't know what it looked like. It's a piece of equipment with a big drum on front. The drum has teeth on it, and it just chews up whatever gets in its way. Go ahead. This is some of the brush and stuff that looked like along the top of that road. Next slide. And you can see that the tree density in there right here is not too bad, but the underbrush is pretty bad as far as creating a continuum. And the purpose of fuel break is so you give the firefighters a chance to get up there and build a fire line should we have a fire that comes across there. Next slide. This is another area that this was actually burned by McBride, but it still had a lot of dry oak brush and material in there that we needed to get out. You also see some dead trees in the background there that blew over or were cut by the firefighters. Next. And ditto. Next. And next. Go ahead. There you can see some of the old burn. You can actually see some of it on the ground, but now you see some of the underbrush that was still remaining up there along that ridge. The small trees underneath the big trees, and it creates an area that would carry a fire. Next.
You take pictures like me, Dick.
I beg your pardon?
Fingers in the pictures.
And you can see the density of some of the trees along there before we did the project. Next. And there again, the tree density with trees coming all the way to the ground, a lot of dead limbs on the bottom of them, and just an area that would really carry a fire. Next. Oh.
Got you some video. All right.
This is some of Fat Fingers Cooks. He hit the video instead of photo.
I like motion pictures, dude.
Nothing but perfection.
But anyway, it does show the density of the trees. Next. And there's some more of the down in the tree density, and that's getting up more towards the top of it where there's more ponderosa pine. And up in that area after McBride, we had a big influx of bark beetles, and so we had a lot of bark beetle kill up there. Next. Again, more brush. And you can see the piles of things that the firefighters left. Next. And next. You can see the density back there of the trees. That is where it could easily carry a crown fire. And then in the foreground, you see a lot of little trees that could create the ladder fuel that would put it in the crowns. Next. And there's quite a number of downed trees there that are dead and primed for ignition. Next. 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 Okay, now we're going to go after the project and see what it looks like now. Next. There's the road that after they improved it. And the only place this road is still a little bit iffy is right when it first starts up. There was a lot of rock there, and we got into a little bit of a quandary over the trail that had been constructed in there. We didn't quite get it the way we had originally planned it because we didn't want to destroy the trail for a piece there. And so we came right across it. But I can still get up there in a two-wheel drive vehicle, so next. There's the tree density, and you can see that there's nothing underneath, that the trees are all trimmed up nice and high so a fire can burn under there without igniting anything. Next. And there again, nothing on the ground. Next. That's an example of the mulch after they get through with the mastication. It just chews everything up and leaves it on the ground. And the advantage to it, it'll still burn for a year or two, but it decomposes much quicker than if it were just regular twigs and leaves and things. So what they did is whenever we pruned the stuff from the bottom of those trees and threw it in piles, and then they came in with the masticator and masticated the piles, so we didn't have to haul any of the limbs and things off, which saved our grapple trucks a little.
And that kills the bark beetles too, the mastication.
I beg your pardon?
That kills the bark beetles too, the mastication.
Yes, for the most part. They don't have anything to eat, and they can't build their galleries in there, and so effectively, yes. Next. Now you can see what it looks like. There's quite a contrast from what you saw a while ago to what it is currently. Next. There's really a good spot up there for it. It's an area that was pretty thick, and you can see the little patches of mastication on the ground where that's all that's left right now. Next. And there's across the ridge, that whole ridge is fixed to where if a fire came up out of that canyon, it would probably go on the ground before it went across, which would give the dozers and things. The other thing is there's a thing they call resistance to control. If you have a lot of down logs and things, it's hard for bulldozers and crews to build the fire line. And so when it's open like this, they can go scooting across there pretty quick. Next. Next. There's another on the road up on the top. You can see that along that whole road and that whole way, there's a lot of rock. And so road construction, it was a little bit of a problem for getting drainage out of that road bed, but it's such that I think it'll be easy to maintain. Next. And there again, some of the mulch, that was a tree before it got mulched. Wow. Next. And there again, the open space between the trees with the lemon up from the bottom. Next. And there again, that was the brush field you saw that had been masticated along with the trees that were taken out. Next. And another picture of the road. Next. And next. Next. And next. And the winds just this year have blown down a couple of more trees. I saw 3 that have been blown down. That's one of them. Next. There's one that's actually blown down across the road that we're going to have to get up there and cut that one down because it's across the road and it's hung up in another tree. There's a possibility if somebody were walking there and it fell out of that tree and wouldn't be good. Next. And some of the old trees that blew over and things, we didn't take the roots out. We left them laying there, but they don't present a fire hydrant, and they do provide some habitat for critters, small critters. Next. And that's the end of the presentation. Are there any questions?
Good job. Looks great.
Okay, thank you, Dick.
I'm not quite through.
Oh,
I have some breaking news for you.
okay.
And just before I came, I got the word that the village was awarded a community wildfire defense grant in the amount of $1.2 million for cost share. So that's kind of a bonus for us.
Well, you ain't
That's
kidding.
great. Good job, Dick, yes.
But not only that, the South Central Mountains Resource Conservation and Development Council got a grant for $784 for thinning the property down there that belongs to Barbara Willard in Carrizo Canyon. There's 3 big properties that they're going to thin down there that protect our southern border. And that grant was awarded to them. Plus, they got another $250,000 grant for updating the Community Wildfire Protection Plan.
So that's $1 million there?
Huh?
Did you say 700 what to the Barber property? You said,
Barbara's property?
yeah.
Well, there's 3 properties.
What was the total of?
You said $754.
$784,000.
84,000
Yeah,
plus the 250. That's awesome.
yeah. And then our 1.2 million. And our 1.2 million, I wrote it where it's real flexible. We can use it for cost share. We can use it for, there's not a match that's required, so we could use it for low-income families that can't afford to pay for it, so we can do that. We can cost share village property with it, so we could use state money or our allocated money as a small cost share to do the village thinning. And then we can use it for I suppose, our clean and lean if we want to get more into that program. So it's a very broad, easy to use. And I don't know all the particulars and how it's going to work, but that's forthcoming.
Well, we'll need, what's the application process for, you said the low-income folks that could be able to take advantage of this? I mean, we just need to look at that, Ron, and make sure the anti-donation and all that, we work through that.
Yeah, this is federal funds, so.
Well, that wouldn't
and
count.
it's so it's the contract, it says expand and enhance a program to reduce the amount of flammable material within the village of Ruidoso while creating fuel breaks and defensible space around homes. And so it's, ownership isn't an issue with this particular grant.
Excellent. Good job.
And Mayor Crawford,
And-
members of the
but we
council,
didn't-
on the federal funds, the anti-donation, just like we did with the CARES Act, is a little different than the state funds. The state is the one that have the anti-donation clause.
That's good news.
The bad news is we didn't get our grapple trucks.
Oh, and then one was on fire this morning, so.
Then, just for your information too, Angel Fire also got a sizable grant.
Did
to
she?
do some of their work.
Excellent.
So they can buy their tub grinder if they want one.
Oh, the guys that were just here?
Yeah,
Oh, wow, that'd be nice.
yeah. They got a $10 million grant.
Did they really now? Wow. Well, their whole staff was here the other day. We took them around, so that's great. Thank you, Dick. That was informative for sure. Okay, that concludes the mayoral reports and presentations. Now, if we can move on to, so we got some other folks in here, public hearings. If we can move on to the public hearing section.
Mayor,
Yes,
did you want to just move to the prior to the manager's report?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
perfect.
want to get the public hearings
Okay.
done, and then we can move back. So the first public hearing is for request to appeal denial of planning commission case CU plus PV 2024-32 for 2332 Suttereth Drive. And where is our planning and zoning people?
Here they come. And Jeff?
There they are. Okay, do we need to explain the quasi judicial at this point?
If you'd like to, Mayor.
Would you?
Sure. This is a quasi.
Microphone?
Oh, sorry. This is a quasi judicial proceeding where you guys are sitting in your judicial capacity to make a determination that affects one particular piece of property in the village. If any of you have had any conversations with the applicant or any witnesses about the case, you should inform the mayor and the body now. If not, has anybody had any ex parte communications?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Quasi judicial hearings are all
And
about.
here's Susan. Oh, is she? Okay, we'll move on. Go ahead, Zach, I'm sorry.
Quasi judicial hearings are all about having the applicant have due process where he can present his case about why you should grant his application. This was denied at the planning commission, and so it's before you guys again for the planning department to present their case and for the applicant to present his case. The applicant can cross-examine the planning and zoning staff about any issues that he'd like to explore further. A lot of times, cross-examination just turns into further testimony, so I'll try and keep a check on that. If Mr. Riddle wants to question the staff, he's welcome to do that.
So is new information introduced only new information, or is it all information?
This is a quasi judicial hearing that you guys can, that we're going to present all the same evidence. I know that, so, and that's the gist of quasi judicial hearings.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
Mayor, council, the item that's presented before you today is an appeal based on an initial request for conditional use and variance related to a property on Sutter's Drive. That request was denied by the Planning Commission. The initial request was for a combination of land that totaled a certain amount to have the placement of a food truck placed into an area. Later, during that discussion, there was whether the truck itself should be considered a food truck, immovable or not immovable within an area. It was to create a kitchen within a specific area behind the Noisy Water Winery so that it would be allowed to provide food as part of the service. The Planning Commission heard the information that was presented, and based on certain requirements, they came up with 3 reasons as to why there was a denial. The first item was that the applicant did not demonstrate an unreasonable burden for the proposed use, which was the initial request for the variance. The basic use of a variance is to show that there's a hardship with the land. In this case, the land could in fact be used to build a facility. There was some documented comments that basically said, well, we want to use the truck first to make sure that the project is viable. It's not that something couldn't be built onto that area in its current shape. And so that was the first condition that was identified. The variance request of an excess of 8,000 square feet, which is a combination of multiple properties, is an unprecedented use of what that language is in the current ordinance. It's made in reference to one specific piece of property, not a combination of multiple properties. And even in that case, the combination of multiple properties are not contiguous, so they were in different portions. It's as if you have a block and every other space maybe, or two may be contiguous, but not all together. And so even with that reading, the commission found that that's not the purpose of what the code says. So that was item number 2. And on item number 3, the applicant admitted that there were alternative ways to develop the property, not involving the use of a mobile vending operation. And so, based on those 3 items, the commission came back and stated it doesn't meet the requirements and rejected the use. The applicant has since then submitted an appeal, and that appeal is based on the argument that, using the specific language from the case, during the case, there were multiple errors and decisions made by the Planning Commission. The commission selectively enforced certain sections of Chapter 54 and failed to apply the section of the ordinance adopted below. And that is that Section 54-34, relationships of article to comprehensive plan, the administration, enforcement, and amendments to this article shall be accomplished in accordance with the recommendations contained in the comprehensive plan as developed and amended from time to time by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission was also presented with an inaccurate lot size. There's enough land owned to exceed the 12,000 square foot minimum. Further, the truck will not be mobile and should not be considered as such. Those were the requests to review the appeal. With that information, we refer back to the 3 reasons that the Planning Commission did in fact reject the initial request in the first place, to the applicant's request that the commission didn't evaluate the land correctly, even if the information was submitted and they do have over 12,000 square feet of land. Again, it's not one piece of property. They're having to combine multiple pieces of property in order to achieve that. And again, legally, that's an unprecedented reading of what the requirement is for the code. The second item, as far as relating back to the comprehensive plan and adding to the Midtown area through economic development, I refer back to the response on number 3 that the Planning Commission reasoned with. The applicant admitted that there was alternative ways to develop the property, not involving the use of a mobile operation. So they could in fact build something else that would still lead to economic development within the area. So it's not really a violation of 54-34 as the recommendation is considered. And then the selective enforcement of certain sections of 54 again falls under those same sections. And so that would be the information that would be presented to you by planning and zoning staff.
Okay. Do you have anything else? Okay. Judge Perillo, you want to come down and you might could turn the air conditioner. I see people getting a little chilly over here.
Mayor, could I ask a question?
Yes, Michael. Yes, sir. Go ahead and sit down there.
Michael, looking at the surveys, how many lots do we have in Midtown that are over 12,000 square feet?
So there's actually not a lot. And in Chapter 54 rewrite, there is actually going to be a reduction from 12,000 to 10,000 square feet. We did actually today have an applicant that submitted for something similar that does meet the requirement. And so there are facilities or there are pieces of land that do meet those requirements. Unfortunately, this is not one of them.
Yeah. Well, and I would argue there's very few lots in Midtown that are that size.
And again, based on the code that we have in front of us, those are the requirements that we're following.
Understood. I'm just an observation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, thanks. Pull that. Sorry, I guess I rushed you a little, sorry.
Mayor, Council, how are we?
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good. Just a couple points of clarification. The statement was made that the lots are not contiguous. That's incorrect. They're all contiguous parcels. Now, if you'd let me connect in contiguous parcels in Midtown, I could get there real quickly. But I'm connecting 3 contiguous parcels with one piece of land that was vacant land off of Rio Street, which is now a patio area where we want to be able to add service. I never said that it was not an inconvenience or not a burden on my team to be able to do this. What I simply stated is yes, it's a parcel of land that someone could develop in the future. However, if we look back at our comprehensive plan and we look back at the development of our Midtown corridor, what we're looking for is development of Rio, the redefinition of Rio. So you're asking me to take on full financial burden on an unproven area to put in some form of concept, the only thing that would be actually a business-facing Rio. And I just simply stated that I would like the opportunity to go in and do something that would be economically feasible without building $1 million piece of brick and mortar, without understanding the impact of what that is. Not to mention, there are some issues with the lot itself, the land itself, as those that have property in Rio, they understand, it came up in the meeting. There's water that sits back there. I know years ago when we did a study, there's times that they said, well, you might have to go in and do some sort of some sort of steel structure and all these different things. And so there's a lot of economic hardship that would come with some other form of permanent construction there, if it's even feasible whatsoever. This was a blighted lot that sat behind what is Ruidoso Leathers, as you know it. It's adjacent to the cellar. We can currently use it as a patio, but that is it. It's also not ADA accessible from service standpoint. We do counter service. People would have to go up 2 flights of stairs, including my staff would have to be able to traverse 2 flights of stairs to just get service to the people. Not to mention, current code does not necessarily easily allow a retrofit in those buildings to bring in a kitchen and to come in and do something for that. So this is the quickest and easiest way for highest and best use. Another thing I wanted to state, and I sent over the survey, but also if we're looking at that redefinition of Rio, if we're talking about lot size and what I've seen where the pins are originally on Rio Street, as all of you know, are out in the middle of the village parking lot, that actually does get me over 12,000 feet if you go back to the vacation of Rio that everyone's talked about. So I understand that it's a little peculiar in stating that, yes, there's 3 contiguous lots. It's also very rare that you can own 3 contiguous lots down there to be able to make this sort of thing happen. And that's a whole another discussion. I think code should be looked at for that. It's also not a mobile truck that's going to pull in and pull out. It's something that we would like to use in a more permanent manner. The statements I made in the planning and zoning hearing was like, yes, if this is something that is a home run, as I've gone up and down time and time again in this community, I would love the opportunity to invest additional dollars into Midtown as I continue to do. But I want to understand what it is first, and that's a massive financial burden to just say, here, build this thing and see if people show up and come to it. That's why I'm asking this in potential proof of concept, and also the fact that the way it sits now, it is unusable. So this would allow me to give use to it and to actually bring that some life into that lot. I fenced it off. There's some chairs out there, but no one wants to sit down there and walk 2 flights of stairs to go get a glass of wine. Also gives us the opportunity for additional food service there, which is desperately needed in town. As you know, the sidewalks roll up at 5 o'clock down there, and we want to keep people down there longer. That's why I have a lot of additional support from other merchants and other business owners in that area, because if you can extend the hours, the second they get hungry, they leave Midtown. They're not coming back to Midtown, and we want to give them that opportunity. I believe in the initial P&Z meeting, we had a few opposition that came after they heard what our proposal was. They're not sitting here today. Because they thought it was going to be in the village parking lot. There was a lot of misinformation in the way that they understood the initial application. They thought I was going to be putting it out in the parking lot. I wouldn't want that either. I understand that. So it's something I hope the opportunity to do. It's something I would like to. And yes, if this works to the point I made to planning and zoning, I would look to be able to go back in and see if I can find the dollars to construct something in the future. But right now, this is the use I have for this space, or else the space is basically unusable for me. And it creates a hardship on us currently to do anything else. Economically speaking, this first quarter has been down in Ruidoso. We're seeing that. I mean, it's an election year. There's a lot of factors, but we're seeing that. This is some of those things that, outdoor space is huge. People are changing the way they want to live, sit, work, and everything else. And this is the ability to use an outdoor space in Midtown, which is very, very hard to come by.
Okay, so I've been looking through this. Do you own all 3 of those properties?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was my thought. That it would be a pretty easy combination.
Yeah.
And if I owned the bookstore, then we'd be able to connect a couple more.
Yeah.
My Monopoly board has holes in it.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Couple of questions for Jasper. So what is your estimation of the correct consolidated square footage now?
I believe it to be right over 12,000 square feet, and I sent Mrs. Turi the updated survey that is the 3 surveys combined that shows that square footage.
And how many properties or businesses do you and your family own in Midtown?
So in Midtown, we have the seller on court, your current applicant. We own the real estate that is being leased to the Greenery Room adjacent. We have Ruidoso Leathers, which is on the other side. Those are the 3 there. Skip that. We have where Happy Hiker now leases. I own the real estate where the Mercantile is and where Hidden Township Brewing leases below. And my wife has Old Barrel Tea Company there as well. And then across the street, I have Noisy Water Winery. And so, that's there in the Midtown corridor.
Yeah, and you've done great things in Midtown.
And I want to continue to, and I think the redefinition of Rio, I mean, in a perfect world for me, all of Midtown would be a lot more walkable and a lot slower. I understand the burden of Sudderth, so I think the opportunity to go in and give Rio a little zest and love is maybe the best path forward for us without trying to move state highways. However, no one's jumping on that right now. And that's the complaint I've had. Used to get emails from years from the people that live at the river crossing saying, can't you guys paint the back of these buildings? Can't you guys do something in the back of these buildings? It's hard. Even access off of the parking lots there is dedicated access. I had to build one of the sidewalks adjacent years ago, which is technically kind of drainage adjacent to Eagle. There's the shared side stairs going there. It's a tough. It could use some love on Rio. And so I'm hoping this is the thing that can be a catalyst for that next step. But I can't go and say I'm going to spend millions of dollars to build a building just to expand a little service to an area that realistically has 20 seats. Mary, you've done those numbers in food and beverage. It doesn't work.
It don't work, but we were looking at the Rio alignment at one time, and then we got shut down on that because people didn't understand what we were trying to do, but this would help, on the overall plan. And I understand what you're saying, Mike. The current statute, our current ordinances right now, it's a precedent thing.
Well, and Mayor and Council, again, what you have in front of you is a current variance and a current requirement that doesn't meet specifications based on what the applicant is submitting. You do have a Chapter 54 rewrite that is sitting in front of you that you all are being briefed on. Based on current situations, staff has to recommend against this because of those 3 items. And again, in the code, a variance is established as a financial or economic burden does not meet that requirement. However, you are hearing more and more consideration for development of Midtown.
Well, and this is part of the comprehensive plan. It's been there forever. We just have never got to it. And now then we got people moving into it. What I'm talking about is past meetings, comprehensive plans, Rio, and even Wingfield, we're talking about being walking districts. And y'all remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that there's some talk about the Chapter 54 rewrite and some other considerations that are going to be west of Rio, of Eagle.
Yes, sir. And the other item that I'd like to make sure is clear, whether it's agreeable or not, in code, the combination of multiple, and Mr. Riddle has multiple sections of properties within Midtown. The concern, and again, per the current code, as it states, in combining multiple businesses' property and what the total amount is, there may be a situation where you have, like you said, you have a leather store, you have a winery store, or a winery, you have multiple types of businesses. The current code and with the current combination of square footage, the business type changes.
Oh, yeah.
And so that is a concern in the current code. Again,
Wouldn't they still all be C3?
that is,
Wouldn't district oversee business use?
that is a very good point. However, again, within and this goes back to discussions I think we've had from the Chapter 54 rewrite, cleaning things up and making amendments as to types of business, business use, definition of business. Those are things that we've had discussions on for that rewrite to clear those up. But they're not ordinance as of yet. If the council decides to overturn those, and vote against this or overturn the decision of P and Z, that's what you would be doing based on the current code. There is an opportunity to clean that up as you move forward.
Mayor, question, Michael. Jasper alluded to there were a couple of negative comments. How many did the village receive?
Negative, I believe there was 3 people that spoke out against the actual item, but as Mr. Riddle stated, once there was clarification on what his approach was to addressing the situation, they withdrew their complaints.
And I understand and fully respect what you're saying. I greatly respect the efforts of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I mean, they're interpreting the law as currently written.
Yes, sir.
I just hate to see the opportunities of upholding our comprehensive plan stymied over technicalities. The plans dating back for decades have always focused on a vibrant Midtown. And, my hat goes off to entrepreneurs such as Jasper and Eric and Elliot. What they've done for our Midtown is significant.
Jenny, did we get some letters or any comments or anything in?
Yes, Mayor and members of the council. The clerk's office did receive 9 letters. There were 9 letters of support. 4 of the letters were from property owners and 5 were for tenants, and there were no letters of opposition received.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this? For or against? No, we're not going to swear anybody in today. I guess that's good. So what we're looking at, because we've done some research down there a long time, and now then we've got interest. Okay, and so that's what this is all about. The village can't do everything. And, the Chapter 54 rewrite that we're looking at and that part of the C3 that limits what we can do, even if people buy property, tear it down and build something new. We haven't even discussed all that yet. But, the one thing I would like to see is, and just like Councilor Corey said, all due respect to the commission, what they've done, it's on the rules that we have today. That's where we want to be tomorrow, maybe. And so how do we get to a point today where we are able to move forward that we don't set, I'm just wondering about things that we've done, because every time you mention food trailer in Midtown, people, they lose their mind, but they're softening, because back when that was put in, I was a brand new business person and the economy was crap. And
Mayor.
Who's talking?
Legal counsel.
Oh, yes.
There may be a statutory fix that I've overlooked until now. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, I referred to a Supreme Court case from 1981 that basically says the main question that you have to answer in a variance case is it going to create an undue burden if you deny the application? It doesn't give any guidance about what undue burden is. It's just the Court of Appeals doing what they do best. And so I relied on that. The commission said, well, it sounds like he's got other opportunities to develop that property or use that property. But as I look more closely at the statutes, the Mexico statutes, as opposed to our ordinances, Section 321.8 of New Mexico State statute says that let's see here. The zoning authority, which is the governing body of the municipality, by a majority vote of all its members may authorize in appropriate cases, whatever that may be, and subject to appropriate conditions and safeguards, whatever those may be, that it's basically saying y'all can, under certain cases, establish safeguards, variances from the terms of the zoning ordinance or resolution that are not contrary to the public interest, where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship, so that the spirit of the zoning ordinance is observed and substantial justice done, and D, so that the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan are implemented. Basically, it says you can vary from your regulations if those things are met. If substantial justice will be done by awarding the variance, you can place additional conditions on the variance. So I think if you think that this is an appropriate case, then I think this statute allows you to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission and put whatever conditions you want on it.
And Mayor and Council, from a staff perspective, I think, and this is where we were going back and forth, I think financial burden has never been considered part of the ordinance. In this case, if you do establish that a financial burden is part of that, staff would have to reevaluate whether there would actually need to be some consideration or not. As Mr. Riddle mentioned, the structure that would have to go in, the property itself is usable.
And I get that, and I understand that could be substantial enough that it might put the whole business operation in jeopardy. So, where I was going earlier is that things have changed. Before, the restaurants, the bricks and mortar, they needed every foot traffic they could get in to make it back in the day. That's 15, 18, 20 years ago. Things have changed. We got people that are trying to get the food and the services we're trying to keep them in the historic Midtown District, where our revenue generator or whatever. So I'd like to be able for us to think through this momentarily to get to yes, because that's what we always try to do, is how do we make it work and stay in the confines of the ordinances. So what you're saying is that we would have the ability to make this happen with some other, you can call them clarifications, constraints, or whatever on how it would be operated?
Safeguards is what the statute calls it.
Safeguards. Can you give me an example of what a safeguard would be? Because I'm thinking, I know where this is at. It's built up in there. There's seating in there. So you're talking about cramming a food truck in there. And then it's the parking issue. And then we're going to have to, if we can ever get to the realignment of Rio Street, that was one of the things that we need to do, is talk about parking and sidewalks and all the other stuff.
And Mayor and Council, I think if you're evaluating that based on what legal counsel recommended, and then you're considering the hardship based on the property, you may look at a moratorium. So it may be, to the applicant's direction, he said it could be a financial issue. So if you have a moratorium, whatever that may be, whether it's 3 or 5 years, it's a structure that doesn't move, and it's establishing that it is actually successful at the end of that period of time that council is placed on that moratorium, then the applicant may need to create the structure or remove it. Those are things I think that are items that you could place as considerations under the conditional use. I think the other option that I would strongly recommend council to do if you walk down this path is to make sure that Chapter 54 moving forward has any alignment or adapts to the alignment that the direction's being given on right now. Just so
lot sizes and what can be built and.
Yes, sir.
Well, because if I may, looking down at this top, the picture that has your benches and you can tell where the stairwell goes through that little alleyway, because I was over there the other day, I'm like, oh, wow, it's the first I've been down there, that part. Where would the trailer go? Because it comes up pretty quick.
And so that's part of the hardship of building on that lot, is the way it would build is they develop the top half and left that lower half alone. So it would be right up against that slope. So without disturbing the slope, without having to go in, engineer retaining walls.
Yeah, you just pull it in there.
Pull it in there. And we would realistically, honestly, probably have to drop it in there,
With a crane?
Yeah.
Probably have to crane.
How long is the thing?
It's the one that Will and Rebecca had for Glencoe when they were putting Glencoe. So it's 30
Okay, so it's a big one.
It's a big one.
Mayor, I got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir, Joe.
I commend you on for everything that you've done here in Midtown, also to Ruidoso and for your vision. But just have a couple questions as far as, I'd say, maybe Michael, you can answer this, is that we mentioned unprecedented use, and I just want to get through all the legal hurdles, I just want to understand them all, is that you're combining lots. Now, I do believe that in the minutes where you were talking about possibly in the future, if you were looking at building a kitchen down there, I believe that Stephanie said in the minutes that he would have to replat in order to get by for the setbacks. Now, but to combine all three lots to make one large square footage, how can you do that, though? As far as negating that, as far in your ordinance when it's written that way to allow somebody to come in? Because, as the mayor stated, that it was the merchants, the businesses down there that actually got this. That's why we have the ordinance the way it is right now, with the no food trucks. And with the public interest, as you stated, that if it's in the public interest. Now, I don't know how many people in the public actually know what you're wanting to do or, can understand it. So if you could answer the combining the lots, how do you actually get by with doing that?
And that's, yes, sir, Councilmember Eby and Mayor. That's the concern that staff initially had when this was presented. And Mr. Riddle had a consideration based on what the actual area is zoned. It's one specific zone, but there's different uses.
Permitted in the zone.
Yes, sir. And so each property, in this case, each property has a different use. And so what the request is and consideration is to group those lots to meet the requirement. Now, what staff had recommended was if you want to if you really want to achieve the goal of accomplishing what the current code says, and again, I stress what the current code says, then you would have to replat all of those lots as one property so that you can meet it. That's really the requirement. If you're just going by the letter of the rule, it says you have to have X amount of property and this is what has to happen. What Mr. Riddle's application had suggested is that don't combine them, review all of them, calculate the total amount of square footage, and if we have enough, go ahead and apply the variance and the conditional use based off of that. Unfortunately, the current code doesn't read that way, and that's what the commission stated. Now, if you did put them all together based on the current code, would that apply? Technically, yes, because now he has the minimum square footage that he would need to be able to accomplish that goal. The requirements that staff are trying to work towards, and all of you have made this point, is that it's our job and it's the commission's job to enforce policy as it's written currently. However, our our village attorney has just recently read you some information that could allow you to make a change or to at least interpret some of the concerns that are being presented by the applicant differently. Again, staff's recommendation is if you do that, we would look to buckling down, so to speak, on direction as we move forward. And making sure that those requirements or any conditions you place on the applicant now would align with any future decisions that you make moving forward.
So to me, that almost, because we're here and we're supposed to uphold the village ordinance also. So in doing that, I view it as putting the cart before the horse. You take the action, then you change your rules to match that action that you've taken. So if that's the case, what I'd like to see, when is our next workshop on the Chapter 54? If we're going to go that direction, I would rather be more comfortable with knowing that that's the direction we're going to be taking as far as the language in the ordinance within our, because to me, I think there's going to be a lot of upset people if you take the action first and then change your rules to match that action.
And Mayor and Council, to that point, and I know we're in an open hearing, I'm not sure if we can have those discussions during this information.
I think so, don't you? Sure, that's what we're here.
What we would do is our initial timeframe was to have that discussion in June, to finalize any items on Chapter 54. Once that item was finalized, it would go back to council for adoption in July, if everything was buttoned up correctly. And then it would become.
I'd like to point out that even in your current rewrite, this would still not be eligible. So even the current rewrite you're talking about, the square footage minimums, all that, it would still deem this ineligible.
This would still be.
Just for clarification, the item that's before you can still be amended based on your
Right.
direction. It's just a recommendation that's sitting in front of you. So if council decided to make the recommendation that those properties would need to be a minimum of X square footage or meet other requirements as defined, then there's definitely some ability to work with this situation, especially if you want to use it as the
So
example.
encompassing the whole C3 area down there through Chapter 54, because we've been in conversation with, I'm not going to call them developers, but people that are interested, but some of the confines of what C3 says they have to do, it just doesn't make sense because the lot's so small. So they're backing off and looking at us. So, what is the intent? We all know what the intent of the comprehensive plan that we've all played a part on. Ultimately, the development of Rio up, have a more vibrant walking district, staying district. I mean, I get that. And I do understand what you say, Joe. It looks like we would be filling the rules in later. And you're saying if we're going to do it, let's do it in the right order. Have the discussion about would that be rezoning of the C3 down there, and then the Chapter 54 rewrite to maybe look at alternatives to what people thought of in the past?
Mayor and council, I don't think it would be necessarily a rezoning. I think it would be clarification on
what could be
certain points
done.
of Chapter 54 rewrite. I do believe that what would happen is this example, as well as others that have failed to move forward from planning and zoning, could be taken into account based on the high-level items that were rejected as discussed by planning and zoning. Those items, and working with our consultants, could probably be rewritten and then brought back to council as the recommendation, whatever direction recommendation you make, so that it would fit those models to allow that development.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Question for Zach. I personally am inclined to overrule the denial. How can we structure it so that we take advantage of the additional information you become aware of?
I think that kind of goes to the mayor's question about what are safeguards. I get the sense that others are leaning in the same direction, because it seems like in town, people are now wanting, the momentum is in support of this. I think that statute just says, and it refers to the zoning authority, and under this section of statute, it's you guys that are the zoning authority. You delegate a large part of that to a commission. So all you do today, if you're so inclined, is to move to reverse the denial of the application and then place any conditions that you think are appropriate. Does that answer your question?
It does, but I was looking for what the condition should be.
I've been very lawyerly on this thing, and I say, 12,000 feet, you don't meet it, sorry. Oh, you didn't show a burden, can't help you there because the court said. But then you look at those cases, and the court just says, if there's a burden, well, what is the burden? And now he has articulated burdens. You guys have I believe there's enough testimony on the record today that your decision will be would be upheld if it were challenged in a district court. On these types of decisions in district court, all the court's looking for is if your decision was arbitrary and capricious or against the law. You've sat here and contemplated enough testimony that it would be difficult to show that any decision you made is arbitrary and capricious. And it's not against the law because 321.8 of New Mexico statute gives you that authority. So what do you think are that's a decision for the people that were elected to make these decisions. What are the conditions you would put on it?
My concern on relying on amendments to chapter 54 are, the wheels of time and how long these issues take. And Michael, I know in a perfect world you're saying July, but we don't live in a perfect world.
That's my concern as well with this. And I'm more than open, and I think that, I think we should go back to what the comprehensive plan is and try to uphold that. And I think that's at the core why you're looking back at 54. However, that being said, the wheels of time are my concern. I'm still going to be running a small business waiting on this action to happen when there can be an action made now that can, and I think that to that point, it give me a moratorium, say here's 5 years, but it gives you a case study for businesses down there. I've been blazing the path down there for years. Let me start on Rio. Let me do something that everybody else can say, yeah, let's put money into Rio. And I think they'll follow. And then let's see where we miss. I don't think it's going to be a miss on this. But, given the current minimums, nothing in Midtown meets it. Nothing in Midtown meets it. The only thing there is the property across the street that I have, what the Village Lot owns, in Downshift Brewings, which they already have a food truck in the parking lot there that's not been operating. That the Ponders got, during COVID to try to just keep doors open. And that's a part of this too, is trying to use the outdoor spaces in town. Because as a small business owner, somebody that's in food and beverage, you have to have those prepared in case something happens again. Sure.
And Mayor and Council, again, based on the current code, we obviously have our recommendation, but going back to discussions that you've had about 54, opening up patios, looking at uses of outdoor spaces, whether it's development of green spaces, all of those things do feed back to this discussion and decision as well. So you have had these discussions. It's the direction you're choosing to take now. From a staff perspective, I think any conditions that we would recommend be placed on this would just be making sure they meet building requirements or anything of that nature for stability, safety. The moratorium be placed on there, whatever timeframe you all believe that looks to be, that they operate within the hours that they're supposed to, whatever their designated permits are, things of that nature. And so those would be the conditions and ramifications out that we would recommend from a staff perspective.
Like water, electrical, sewer tap, all of that.
Sir.
Now, that C3, does that go all the way to Grindstone?
No, sir.
How far does it go down?
Thought it did.
It goes from Country Club down to the Downshift Brewing property.
Which is Pace, I believe.
That's right after Grindstone.
Oh, right after Grindstone, I'm sorry.
That wasn't in originally, that was pulled in whenever we were trying to get our innovation with RMA and with Main Street. And that property was yanked in. The district was stretched. It was actually smaller and tighter before that.
And I apologize, I thought Pace was before Grindstone.
Okay, so all that is. Any other questions?
I got one, Mayor,
Yes,
if I
sir.
may. I'm looking at the photos there, and where would you put the porta potty?
We wouldn't have a porta potty down there. There'd be no porta potty.
Okay, but to meet ADA requirement.
ADA, we would use the same bathroom in our existing establishment.
So they go up the
So
stairs?
they go
It
up
would
the
go
stairs.
The way that, Midtown basically does not have to fulfill those requirements. because of its zoning nature in C3 and its proximity to the public bathrooms. So that's why a lot of the businesses down there don't even offer a public bathroom whatsoever.
Correct.
I'm one of the few that does. We have an existing bathroom in that building there. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would, I mean, to your point, these are the things I want to take into consideration over the next few years on how, if this is successful, how I would do that if I could find the dollars to do it eventually. What it would look like.
Right.
And if it's the busiest thing there, underneath the deck, where, if we were to build something where a restroom would be underneath that existing deck would be a good space if we were to do something there.
Okay.
But no, I would not do that for now.
Okay.
I wish we had public bathrooms on the parking lot.
And that's some of the comments I've had from there, because what I'm seeing, again, the big picture of it, the river walk, we're down by the river, then we jump up to Rio, what a perfect spot, then jump back to I call it the Eagle Park now, but the center right there, that's a parking area. But that was, my only question on there.
And the work being done down there, I mean, it's helping beautify that area a lot, the additional parking, all that's helping. But ingress, egress, a lot of things need to be addressed down there.
No, it's terrible.
It's tough. It's very hard.
We've been talking about, yes, sir? We've talked about it for a long time, about what we're gonna do over there, and but we get shut down by businesses down there every time we just talk about realignment. Whenever we do the studies, we did do one.
And Mayor and Council, again, this is slightly off topic, but this goes back to the feasibility studies that are happening right now, the data that we're picking up during this weekend and Memorial Day weekend for different items, so.
Mayor, if it'd be helpful, the Open Meetings Act does have an exception to the open meeting that would allow you guys to deliberate in executive session on this matter.
Okay.
If you feel that's
To
necessary.
do it now and then still take another executive session later? Because I think I'd like to really have a closed discussion on other things that are available, things that have been discussed that might lend maybe direction on that. So if we could, if I get a motion to enter into closed session.
Mayor, I make a motion that we enter into closed session for discussion of appeal of the denial of planning commission case CU plus PV 2024-32 for 2332 Sutter.
Subject to NMSA 10-15-1H 3.
I couldn't have said it better.
Second.
That's why I was.
Okay, we have a motion second. Can I have a roll call, please, ma'am?
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Jackson?
Aye.
Okay, this will be adjourned for a moment. We'll be in closed session. We'll be right back.
I heard you out.
Like in 10 seconds?
Yvonne, can you hear me? Yvonne? Testing? Testing? Testing. Testing, testing. On YouTube.